Welcome to the February 2026 edition of the GECF Monthly Gas Market Report. We would like to present a short overview of the main highlights of the report, which include the major developments in the gas market during the last month. In February 2026, global GDP growth for 2026 based on purchasing power parity was estimated at 3.4% by Oxford Economics. This outlook suggests a period of sustained economic expansion amidst persistent headwinds. Global economic activity is expected to slow looking ahead, with GDP growth in 2027 forecast at 3.3%. At the country level, US GDP growth for 2026 was unchanged from 1 month ago at 2.8%. Growth is expected to weaken in 2027, forecasted to be 2.4%, with productivity expected to play a significant role on the outlook. In the EU, GDP growth for 2026 was estimated at 1.3%. Growth in 2027 is projected to step up to 1.7%, boosted particularly by the effect of Germany's fiscal stimulus. China's GDP growth for 2026 was estimated at 4.7%. Growth is expected to slow further in 2027, estimated at 4.4%, with continued support from state-led investment. India's GDP growth for 2026 was estimated at 6.7%, with the outlook for 2027 rising to 6.9%. In January 2026, natural gas consumption in the EU surged, rising by 10% year-on-year to 47 BCM. This increase largely reflected stronger space heating requirements in the residential sector, alongside a rebound in gas use for power generation following a colder than normal month. Average temperatures across the region were about 0.9 degrees Celsius below those recorded a year earlier, with Eastern Europe experiencing particularly harsh conditions. While wind generation improved during the month, renewable output remained insufficient to fully accommodate the additional demand associated with colder weather. Consequently, natural gas assumed a central role in balancing the energy system, meeting elevated seasonal demand for both heating and electricity and supporting system stability during peak load periods. EU electricity generation saw a year-on-year increase of 4.4% to reach 254 terawatt-hours. In December 2025, China's apparent gas demand recorded a growth of 10% year-on-year to reach 41.5 BCM. China's gas consumption is projected to continue rising, reaching around 450 to 455 BCM in 2026, according to CNPC's ETRI. Industrial demand is expected to be the main driver of growth, supported by coal-to-gas policies. In January 2026, US gas consumption edged down by 1.1% year-on-year to 108.7 BCM, reflecting weaker demand in the residential, commercial, and power sectors, despite the cold spell experienced across parts of the country. Total electricity generation in the US decreased by 0.2% year-on-year to 400 terawatt-hours. Natural gas remained the largest contributor to the power mix, accounting for 39%. In December 2025, global gas production declined by an estimated 1.2% year-on-year to reach 363 BCM. All major gas-producing regions except for Eurasia and Europe recorded positive growth, led by North America, particularly the US. European gas production recorded a 2% year-on-year decline in gas production to 16.7 BCM. This is the 11th month to record a year-on-year decrease in the European output in 2025, mainly driven by lower gas production in UK and the Netherlands. In December 2025, China's gas production maintained its growing trend to reach 23 BCM, representing a 6% year-on-year increase. This is a new high record output of the Chinese monthly production, representing new evidence of the consistent gas development track. Meanwhile, in January 2026, US total gas production continued its growth trend, to record a rise of 2% year-on-year, to stand at 93.4 BCM. This growth reflected the favorable market dynamics, driven by the increased Henry Hub gas prices, along with the increased feed gas directed to LNG exports terminals. In January 2026, the EU countries imported a combined 12.3 BCM of PNG, which was 2% higher month-on-month, and 3% greater than 1 year ago. With gas demand in the region elevated for winter heating, there were year-on-year increases in supply from Azerbaijan, Norway, and Russia. There were significant increases in flows from Norway to both Poland and France. Meanwhile, there was almost zero net gas flows along the interconnectors between the UK and mainland Europe. December 2025 marked the 20th consecutive month of year-on-year increases in PNG imports in China. The country imported 6.8 BCM of PNG, which was 1% lower month-on-month. Total PNG imports in 2025 increased by 8% to reach 81 BCM. Global LNG imports surged to a record 43.0 million tons, rising by 11% year-on-year and marking the largest month-on-month increase since January 2022. Notably, Asia-Pacific's incremental LNG imports exceeded Europe's for the first time since August 2025, with China re-emerging as the main driver of import growth in the region. In Europe, higher LNG intake was driven by colder-than-normal weather, stronger gas demand, and lower domestic production, with the region remaining the primary destination for US LNG cargoes. On the supply side, global LNG exports climbed by 15% year-on-year to a record high of 42.4 million tons, marking the strongest monthly growth ever, driven primarily by Australia, Canada, Malaysia, Mauritania, Nigeria, Norway, Qatar, Russia, Senegal, and the United States. Amidst a particularly cold January 2026, surging gas demand for heating decreased the monthly average underground gas storage level in the EU to 53 BCM. This represented 51% of the region's capacity and was 15 BCM less than the 5-year average for that month. In Asia, despite the cold temperature, both Japan and South Korea entered January with high inventories. As a result, their combined LNG stocks were estimated at 13 BCM, 2 BCM more than the 5-year average. In the US, driven by the effects of winter storms, the monthly average storage level fell to 84 BCM or 63% of capacity. Total net gas withdrawals during this winter season thus far reached 42 BCM. Regional gas prices experienced significant upward pressure in January 2026 as extreme weather events triggered supply tightness and intense regional competition. European spot prices led the surge, with TTF averaging $12 per million British thermal units, representing a 27% month-on-month increase that briefly surpassed Asian benchmarks and highlighted the region's acute vulnerability to price volatility. In the US, Henry Hub prices skyrocketed by 75% month-on-month to $7.32 per million British thermal units as winter storms caused widespread production disruptions. Meanwhile, Asian spot LNG prices saw a more tempered rise, with the average Northeast Asia benchmark rising by 5% month-on-month to $10.43 per million British thermal units, as higher prices tempered spot demand from price-sensitive buyers. Thank you for watching this short video presentation on the February 2026 edition of the GECF Monthly Gas Market Report. We invite you to download the full report from our website at www.gecf.org, or you can scan the QR code.